Happy Barbenheimer week! Do you like my new shirt? I got it just to see Barbie. Hey, Simbib!
Hey, Simbib!
Hello, folks. Welcome back to Stuff I Make Because I'm Bored. My name is Sin, and I will be your host, and today we'll be talking about the long anticipated Barbie movie 2023. The first part of this video will be spoiler-free. Please see timestamps if you would like to avoid spoilers. I saw Barbie 2023 in a theater that was basically full to bursting. I'm talking stuffed. I'm saying at most there were 20 empty seats in the whole entire theater. It was crazy. Now, you may have noticed that I am still very much aware that there's a pandemic and that I am still taking my health very seriously, so I'll be honest, that part made me a little nervous. However, I went to see it with a bunch of friends, and they very much did make me feel safe, and I ended up enjoying myself immensely. Now, I'm not sure if you've seen any marketing for this movie. After all, they've been very subtle about it. Nay, I've heard nary a whisper about this movie that came out last weekend at the same time as Oppenheimer. Memes? What memes? Anyway, all joking aside, the marketing for this movie has been absolutely insane. I can't find a confirmed budget for it, but I suspect it is at least $100 million. My favorite marketing by far, though, aside from the memes, has been interviews with Ryan Gosling, who plays Ken. I think filming this movie may have kind of broken his brain. Let me read you some excerpts. Let me read you some snippets from this interview that he did with Lauren Zima for Entertainment Tonight for his movie The Gray Man. At one point, Chris's character insults yours by calling you a Ken doll. Which is not an insult at all. It's not. I'm proud of that. I have that Ken energy that he could feel, obviously, when he commented on it. And I still feel like the Ken energy is alive. Can you explain Kenergy to me? I can't. I mean, did you know what I mean? No? You know a Ken in your life, and then you know that that Ken has Kenergy. You know, Margot Robbie told us whatever we think the Barbie movie is, it's not that. How would you tease or respond to that quote? I think I would never correct Barbie. I would never dream of it. I would say, whatever Barbie says is exactly right. She's right. It's not what you think it is. Unless it is, and then you know what it is, and then... But I don't think that's what you think it is. What is it? Wait, what are we talking about? The Barbie movie. Oh yeah. I'm excited. I can't wait. That's nothing. I can't wait for people to see the film. Give me one word. Not what you expect. Is not what you expect one word? That's all I can say. Otherwise, Mattel will come in and box me up. Well, that's kind of the point. Or is it? I don't know. What are we talking about? Which role, then, maybe, were you more buff for? The Gray Man or Barbie? Because we see Ken's abs. Right, yeah. That Ken life is, it's even harder than the Gray Man life, I think. Ken's got no money. He's got no job. He's got no car. He's got no house. He's going through some stuff. Or this one with Jimmy Fallon for The Tonight Show. Best script I've ever read. I walk out to the backyard, and do you know where I found Ken, Jimmy? Face down in the mud, next to a squished lemon. And this is the photo. You took a photo of it because this is a sign. This is a sign you gotta do this movie. The utter disrespect. I texted it to Greta, and I said, I shall be your Ken, for his story must be told. Or this snippet from BuzzFeed. It's a bit like that Cinnabon mix. Once you open that canister, it's very hard to... Once you open it, you're making Cinnabons, and you love it. Margot Robbie also was very into the role, allegedly leaving gifts for Gosling every day with small beach-themed items. I just think that's so cute and sweet. I mean, you always hear about people method acting for, like, horrible, awful roles and the toll that it takes on them, and how it often takes a while for them to kind of readjust to normal life where they're a normal, nice person. It seems like this has happened to Ryan. Godspeed, my man. I hope you get well soon. But that is enough preamble about the buzz around the movie. Let's get into the actual movie itself with my spoiler-free thoughts. If I had to describe the Barbie movie, I would say... This movie is an experience. Definitely not made for kids. It's got a PG-13 rating. It is bright and fun. It's sweet, it's heart-wrenching, it's dynamic, it's super colorful and fun to look at, it's also campy as hell. The actors are all giving it their everything. Margot Robbie as stereotypical Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Margot's Ken did an incredible job. They were so engaging and their dynamic was very believable and real. Helen Mirren is the narrator. Will Ferrell is the CEO of Mattel. You know, if I had a penny for every time he's played a business CEO in a toy movie, I'd have 2 pennies, which isn't a lot, but it's interesting that it's happened twice. Simu Liu is Ken's rival Ken, Michael Cera plays Ken's best friend Alan, America Ferrera plays the human Gloria, and Ariana Greenblatt is her daughter Sasha. Everyone did a great job. At least to my untrained eye, nobody stood out as having done a poor job, but to me, Gosling really stole the show.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
And I need a clicky pen?
No.
A sharp thing?
No.
There he is. Doctor!
Somebody get security.
There were some action scenes that felt very intense, which I certainly wasn't expecting at all. There was a very decent balance between the jokes and the more serious tone. The movie overall was very decently shot. I can't say that there was any particular camera work that stood out heavily to me as being incredible. The soundtrack was pretty good. There were a bunch of original, narration type songs that lent a very lighthearted tone to the film. I did find some of the musical numbers dragged a little bit towards the end, but consistently, it was incredibly fun to watch. Tonally, it's a little... how do I put it? Inconsistent? The overall tone, like I said, is both funny and charming, and serious and sad. But I will say it didn't feel like it consistently blended very well together. There were a couple moments where the shift felt super jarring, or there were moments where it didn't feel like it should have had a place in the film, which could very well be the intent, but it didn't work super well for me personally. I also found a couple of the messages of the film felt a little ham-fisted, but overall, super genuine, super fun to watch, highly recommend it. Now, I'm gonna go over the actual story, so from here on out, beware! There are spoilers! This is the part of the video where there are spoilers. Skip to this part in the video if you don't want spoilers. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go! The movie opens with the scene that we've all seen from the trailer, introducing us to the bleak and dreary world from before Barbie dolls existed. A world where little girls only had baby dolls and could only play pretend as moms, which can be fun for a while. And then Barbie appeared on the scene and showed little girls everywhere that they can be anything and do anything. Barbie grew in popularity and diversity, showing everyone that no matter what you look like, you can be who you wanna be. B-A-R-B-I-E. Single-handedly, Barbie solved all problems of feminism in the real world. Or so the Barbies like to think, at least. The scene shifts and we are introduced to Margot Robbie, who will be our main Barbie, and whom I will refer to as Margot, because if I don't, this will get incredibly confusing. Margot lives in her Malibu dream house in Barbieland, where every day is perfectly splendid, and she hangs out with all her friends at the beach, and has parties, and is generally loving life. This is where we get the first of several musical numbers, where a narrator sings about what Margot does every day. She wakes up already perfect, takes a perfect shower, gets dressed in her perfect outfits, has the perfect breakfast, and gracefully floats down from a rooftop into her perfect pink convertible. There's a great shot of Barbie driving from her house to the beach, and the CGI of the town of Barbieland and the surrounding area is incredibly pink and vibrant. I can imagine that the artists who worked on this have an aversion to pink, at least for a little while after seeing so much of it through the production. In the background, we also see some major Barbie landmarks, including the BAX Airport, a Barbieland sign in the style of the Hollywood sign, as well as Mount Rushmore, with 4 notable Barbies carved into the sides of the mountain. Which brings up an interesting point. Was there Barbie colonialism? How was that resolved? Anyway, I'm sure that won't be relevant later. As she drives, we're introduced to a slew of other Barbies of various skin colors and body types, and also one midge who is pregnant, which is bad. Which I thought was an interesting choice, since, yes, there was an actual pregnant midge in the lineup for Barbie, which was discontinued. It just seems like a weird thing to include in the tone that they showed it as. I know of at least one pregnant person who was in the theater with me, but I didn't get the chance to ask them what they thought of that. How do you even bring that up? We also see that the world of Barbieland is ruled by Barbies. Barbies in Congress, Barbie as president, Barbie as construction workers, you name it. And everyone seems perpetually peppy and happy. Once at the beach, we're introduced to Ryan Gosling as Ken, who I shall also refer to as Ryan because, again, if I call him Ken, it's going to be so confusing. He's waiting for Barbie to show up so he can impress her with a cool stunt. The narrator lets us know that Ken only exists for Barbie, and that he just wants her to like him like he likes her. We also meet Simu Liu's Ken, who we can tell right away has some kind of rivalry with Ryan.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
And Michael Cera's Alan, Ryan's best friend. We're also told that there's no multiples of Alan. Not sure why that was important either. Ryan pulls Margot's attention and sprints towards the waves with a surfboard under his arm, but once he hits the extremely plastic waves, he gets launched dramatically backwards, flipping several times through the air and landing in a crumpled heap on the beach. I love this moment because it makes it super clear that Barbie Land isn't just a place in the real world, it's got its own rules of engagements and laws of physics. Ryan and Simu get into a really heated argument and threaten to beach each other off, which Margot breaks up.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
Beach both of us off.
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
And an ambulance is called for Ryan. Ryan complains that he's not even a surfer or a lifeguard. His job is just beach. He then asks Margot if she's got any plans for that night. She says yes, that she's having a giant party with a planned choreography and that every single Barbie in the land is invited. This gives us our first kind of real glimpse into their dynamic, that Ryan either didn't hear Margot when she told him, or that he was just not invited. It shows that she's far more important to him than he is to her, which is kind of sad, really. Later that night is the promised dance party. This scene is also very fun and dynamic. The choreo is impressive. Simu is seen dancing with Margot, which makes Ryan jealous, but when he tries to jump in to dance with her, she gets whisked away to somewhere else, leaving him to dance with Simu and a bunch of other Kens. The dance continues, and then towards the end of the night, Margot spontaneously blurts out,
Do you guys ever think about dying?
which puts an abrupt halt to everything. The music stops, everyone stops dancing, and everyone is staring at her. She coughs a bit, but recovers, saying, I mean, dying to dance. And the party continues as if nothing happened. But we can tell this definitely startled her. After the dance number is completed, Ryan approaches Margot outside her house and asks if he can hang out with her because they're girlfriend-boyfriend. We've all seen this in the trailer. But in the movie, it is far more brutal. It is far more brutal. It is devastating and kind of fucked up. She curtly tells him that tonight is girls' night, and the president is here, so she can't hang out today. It's girls' night. Just like tomorrow night, and the night after that, and the night after that, and the night after that, every night forever. Every night is girls' night, meaning that he's not allowed to hang out with her ever at night, even one time, because it's always girls' night in which he's not allowed to be there. Which again, pretty brutal. Dejected, Ryan leaves her to her party, and the night passes into day, and the world resets, and we're back to Barbie waking up for another perfect day. But this time, something is wrong. She wakes up tired and disheveled. Her shower, which has no water in it, is cold. Her breath smells bad. Her milk expired. She falls off her roof. She does make it to the beach, though, where she's invited to jovially run into the water with some other Barbies, and she hesitantly agrees and takes her shoes off. And her heels promptly hit the floor. She no longer has perfect Barbie-heeled feet. She shows her Barbie friends, who promptly start screaming and freaking out and throwing up. Insisting that Margot needs to go see Weird Barbie. A weird Barbie, we learn, is what happens to Barbies who get played with too roughly. She's who you have to turn to when there's a good and normal proper Barbie with malfunctions. We get an excellent tiny montage of a little girl playing with a Barbie, including cutting the Barbie's hair, drawing on her face, and having her eaten by a T-Rex. It reminded me of my little sibling. It was very cute. So off Margot goes to see Weird Barbie to fix her flat feet. We get a shot of the place that Weird Barbie lives. It's an odd house with boxy and blocky geometry, with walls making no sense and strange colors that we don't see anywhere else in Barbie Land. It really shows that Weird Barbie just is the place where all the outcasts go. The off-colors, if you will. The weirdos. No Midge. Midge is not weird enough to go here, but all the other dejected Barbies end up here. It is here that Margot learns that there is a rift between Barbie Land and the real world, and that she is inexplicably linked to the person who is playing with her, and since that person is sad and dejected and thinking about death, so too is Margot. She's offered the choice between a perfect heel and a Birkenstock.
You can go back to your regular life, or you can know the truth about the universe. The choice is now yours.
The first one, the high heel.
This, of course, is met with Weird Barbie saying that she only gave her the choice to make her feel better and not that it's actually a choice. And so, after a farewell party at her dream house, Margot sets off to the real world. And unbeknownst to her, Ryan has snuck into the car to come with her. When he joins in on her song and pops up, Margot freaks out and crashes the car in a dramatic head-over-heels flip. It is great. And I actually love the shot of the car flipping over, Margot's braid hitting her in the face. I just think that's so cute. It takes a bit of convincing, but eventually Margot gives in and allows Ryan to come with her. There's a short montage of them in some stylized 2D backgrounds as they travel, before ultimately they end up on rollerblades in Venice Beach, California. And it is here that Margot is met with her first experience with sexism. The humans ogle and stare at her in her neon pink leotard and neon yellow skates. They also ogle at Ryan, but it's different for him. He feels seen, and she feels objectified. They pass by a construction site and Margot says, "Let's stop there. I could use a bit of women supporting women energy, and what better place than a construction site?" This goes about as well as you'd imagine it would. The conversation ends with an excellent zinger from Margot. "Well, we don't have genitals, and I don't have a vagina, and he doesn't have a penis." To which Ryan adds, "Actually, I have all the genitals," before they skate away. And before they can really process what happened, a man slaps Margot's ass, and she rightfully turns and punches him in the face. Violence is bad. Don't commit violence unless somebody commits violence against you, like this guy did to Margot. And he got punched in the face, which he deserved, and she shouldn't have been arrested. But she and Ken get arrested. This is where this meme comes from. And while getting their fingerprints taken, she gets objectified some more by the police officers, and she says they probably need some different clothes. So off they go, get some different clothes, and don't pay for them, which promptly gets them arrested again. And wouldn't you know, even though she's even more dressed, she still gets objectified by the police officers. All cops are bastards. Once released again, Margot despairs. How is she even supposed to find the person that she's looking for? Weird Barbie said she just no. So she sends Ryan off on a walk so he'll stop bothering her and she can concentrate. And slowly but surely, images come to her, presented in hazy, rosy flashes. Images of a little girl playing and slowly growing up before eventually seeming to get tired of playing with Barbies and becoming standoffish to another person in the vision. The emotions of these visions seem to overwhelm Margot, and a single tear runs down her cheek. She looks to her right at an older woman sitting next to her on the bus stop bench, and she softly says, "You're so beautiful." And the older woman smiles and replies, "Don't I know it?" Then we cut back to Ryan on his walk around town, and it seems like he's starting to notice a pattern. Some differences between the real world and Barbie Land, if you will. It seems like men in the real world are respected. They're treated like they matter. In fact, it seems like men hold a lot of power here in the real world. This isn't like Barbie Land at all, where the Kens have nothing and are nothing but accessories to Barbies. And so Ryan discovers patriarchy. He sprints back to Margot to tell her what he learned, and she leaps up to tell him what she learned. Of course, Ryan insists that Margot goes first, and she tells him that she knows where to find her person, and off they go. Meanwhile, at the Mattel headquarters, some office cubicle schmuck gets a call from the FBI that a Barbie and a Ken doll have crossed over into the real world, and he goes up to the head honcho to tell him about it. On his way into the room, he passes by Gloria, who is passively drawing some ideas up for new Barbie dolls, like Existential Dread Barbie. Ignoring her pleas for him to wait for the big meeting to be over, the schmuck, whose name I forgot, he says it like 3 times in the movie, I forgot what it is, tells President Business, the CEO of Mattel, that a Barbie and a Ken are on the loose. Gloria, who is listening at the door, overhears the CEO freak out about this, and the CEO sends out men to capture them. Barbie specifically. Ken is Ken. He doesn't matter. Back with Margot and Ryan, they arrive at the school that Margot saw in her visions, and Ryan excuses himself to a library to do some reading, while Margot approaches Sasha, the girl from her vision. Sasha, understandably, is not impressed that she, the cool girl in school, is getting approached by a person she doesn't know who calls herself an actual Barbie and absolutely destroys Barbie's self-esteem and calls her a fascist. Look, the other points that she made about Barbie's giving girls low self-esteem and body image issues I can understand, but fascist? Why fascist? Margot, obviously distraught at this, runs off crying. And Ryan, on the other hand, is approached by a woman asking him for the time. This emboldens him, being spoken to, and brimming with new knowledge about the patriarchy. We're treated to a short stint of Ryan trying to be important in the real world. He approaches a company and asks for a job because he's a man, but he's distraught when the guy he's talking to says he'll need at least an MBA. But I'm a man. That's not how this works. You guys aren't doing patriarchy very well. We do. We're better at hiding it. Subtle! He gets thrown out of a hospital when he refuses to listen to the woman doctor he's talking to, and even gets rejected for a lifeguard position since he doesn't actually know how to save people's lives. I can't even beach here! He realizes that he needs to start over somewhere he can teach people the proper way to patriarchy. And he heads back to Barbie Land. Dun dun dun. Meanwhile, back with Margot, she is found crying by the agents of Mattel and happily goes with them to their headquarters. While she's entering their suspicious, unmarked black vehicles, Gloria is there picking up Sasha from school, who is glad that crazy, mentally unwell person is getting arrested because she thinks she's a Barbie. Gloria, who of course knows about the escaped Barbie, decides to follow the vans. The agents bring Margot back to their headquarters, where Margot meets the CEO and asks to meet the woman in charge. The CEO says that he is in charge. What about your CFO? That would be him. Your COO? That would be him. Are there any women in charge here? This, of course, is followed by the CEO giving her a long speech about how women are the heart of the company. And there was this, one woman once who was in charge in, the 60s or something. And probably there was another one, so that's 2 whole women. They're basically running the company. Again. Subtle. Besides, won't Margot just go into this nice big box? If she goes into this box, everything's gonna be perfectly fine, and it'll go back to the way things were. Pinky promise. Margot enters the box, grateful for the help, but a tiny bit hesitant. As she's getting strapped in, she suddenly leaps back out and asks if she can use the washroom, please. The room full of men says of course. It's right down the hall to your right. Margot says thank you, calmly walks out of the room, before promptly breaking into a dead sprint to get out of the building. What follows is an excellent Scooby-Doo-style chase scene where the office workers, the CEO, and the board members attempt to catch Margot. Lots of slapstick stuff. It got a bunch of laughs from the theater. Margot manages to block a door with a broom, temporarily stopping her pursuers, before coming across an impossible kitchen tucked away behind a door. A mysterious older woman greets her and offers her a cup of tea. They talk briefly about how the real world is nothing like what Margot thought it would be, which is countered by the woman saying that that's what makes the world so incredible. But before long, the pursuers are at the door, and the woman, whose name is Ruth, tells Margot that there's a stairwell in the closet that leads to the lobby. Margot sprints downstairs and out the door, where Gloria pulls up and screams, "Get in!" And Margot leaps like swan dives into the back of the car, and Gloria peels out of there. And this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the film, where Gloria is pursued by these 2 black vans from Mattel. They're driving super fast, but the cars are also bumper to bumper, so it's very tense. The stunts feel great and super impactful, and the vans feel super ominous. It was very well done. I had a blast watching this. During the chase, Margot realizes that the focus of her visions weren't the little girl, but the mom of the little girl, who was also in the visions but slightly out of frame. Realizing this, Margot and Gloria bond, much to the dismay and irritation of her daughter Sasha. Gloria had taken to playing with Margot again since she really missed the way that she and Sasha were when Sasha was younger. Eventually, they manage to shake their pursuers, and Margot decides that the best place for them to go would be Barbie Land. So they strap on their skates and rollerblade out, to Gloria's absolute delight and Sasha's annoyance. Everything annoys Sasha. She's a teenager. And with a hop, skip, boat, rocket, snowmobile, and a camper van ride, they arrive at Barbie Land. But while Gloria is delighted, Margot senses that something is wrong. There's the Supreme Court, in miniskirts and crop tops, cheerleading for the Kens, who are aggressively playing volleyball. And there's the president, handing out broski brews. Odd. At least Sasha seems impressed that women run the courts. And on their way back to the dream house, Margot notices that Mount Rushmore, instead of the 4 founding Barbies, has been replaced with horse heads. Oh my god. Can you imagine? A large culturally significant landmark ruthlessly taken over by hostile strangers who are taking over your land? That would be awful. Anyway, the drive back shows Barbie Land cluttered in all sorts of large leather sofas, horse heads on sticks, bags of golf clubs, barbecues, all sorts of stuff. And as Margot pulls up to her cul-de-sac, the full weight of what has happened overwhelms her. The palm tree in the center of the cul-de-sac has been snapped at the base, there's man stuff everywhere, and the doors to her own house have been replaced with saloon doors. She gets out of the car and demands to know what's going on. And Ryan is there, happily informing her that the Kens rule everything now, and that the land is now called Kendom. The other Barbies are all happily wearing short skirts and maid outfits and dumbly smiling and nodding along to everything that the Kens say. Ryan and Margot end up fighting when he tells her that her house is now his, and that it's now called the Mojo Dojo Casa House. Many jokes were made over it being called House. Also, she's not invited because it's boys' night, which will be every night, but she can graciously be his low-commitment, long-distance sort of girlfriend, because he'd be cool with that. Margot, however, is not cool with that, and goes to storm off. Ryan storms back into what is now his house, goes to the second story, and throws all her iconic outfits back out at her and out of his house. And it actually kind of seems like Margot is not the only one upset at this. Sobbing, Margot crumbles into a lantern pole and promptly loses all resolve to fight back. Maybe some better and more capable Barbie will come along and fix this, she mutters as Sasha and Gloria watch incredulously. Eventually, they leave Margot behind, resolving to just go home and leave Margot to her wallowing. This also got a lot of laughs out of the audience. Margot's acting at this point was so funny. It was so funny. On their way out of Barbie Land, Gloria sings a bit mindlessly along to the radio, and softly, Sasha joins her, bringing the two of them closer. Before Alan pops up out from the back seat, scaring Gloria and causing the car to flip. Again. When they land, Gloria demands to know what he's doing here, and he replies, "I have to get out of here. If the Kens figure out how to build a wall sideways and not just upwards, no one will be able to leave or enter Barbie Land again." Said construction Kens, who are building an upwards wall, see the car and start heading towards them, threateningly, and Alan hops out to deal with them so that he, Gloria, and Sasha can get away. While Alan is beating the ever-loving shit out of the Kens in the background, Gloria and Sasha get into a bit of an argument, where Sasha, of all people, insists they go back to fix Barbie Land. Gloria, incredulous, just doubles down and says that there's nothing that she could even do. She's just useless and no good and bad at drawing and stupid. How could she possibly do anything to help? To which Sasha backhandedly responds that her drawings aren't stupid and that Gloria cares about Margot, so they should help, because it's the right thing to do. And so, back they go, much to the dismay of Alan. The girls enlist the help of Weird Barbie, and after they collect Margot off the floor, literally pick her up like a wet sack of potatoes, and together with the other weird or discontinued Barbies, they hatch a plan on how to save Barbie Land. For me, this is where the movie falls apart a little bit, but alright. It's determined that the reason the other Barbies fell for the patriarchy thing is because they didn't build up any immunity to the patriarchy virus, like Margot did when she went to the real world. At some point during this, Gloria goes on this long rant about how being a woman is really hard, and it did resonate with me. The rant is kind of why I opted out of being female. No thanks. I'm good. But it felt weirdly preachy and out of place. It just kind of felt like it was shoehorned in, almost. It was tonally very weird. She ends the spiel with something along the lines of, "And even if you, a doll, feels that way," and kind of trails off? It could have been better integrated if you ask me. Anyway, the other Barbies notice that Gloria's speech snapped one of the nearby Barbies out of their patriarchy-induced bimbo coma, and they kidnap the other Barbies one by one and break them free. But the fight's not over yet. Oh no. The Kens are planning a vote in 2 days to overturn the Constitution so that Kens rule over everything forever. So the last leg of the plan is to turn the Kens against each other so that they'll be distracted and can't vote. The Barbies each seduce their Ken, and while the Kens are happily singing to them while playing guitars, for 4 hours, the Barbies pretend to get distracted by a text. and swap Kens.
Of course, you know, this means war.
What follows is an epic showdown between the Ryan Kens and the Simu Kens, and it is brutal. Ryan is singing his heart out as the battle rages on in slow motion behind him, and not actual slow motion, mind you. Like, the Kens around him are moving in pretend slow motion, and it's fantastic. It's so funny. Nerf arrows are flying, pool floaties are getting launched, balls are getting tossed, noogies and nipple twists galore. It is an absolute bloodbath. This scene culminates in a dramatic, greaser-style dance-off between the two Ken factions, which is, in my opinion, a little bit long. It's a little bit drawn out. But ultimately, they realize that the Kens are not so different after all. And they all join hands, triumphantly. After which one of Ryan's Kens walks up to him and asks, "Weren't we supposed to vote today?"
What?
Yeah, they were. But thankfully, the Barbies did vote, and the Constitution will not change. Barbies will remain in power, Sasha's wearing a dress for some reason, and the Kens will remain second-class citizens. Hooray! When the Kens return to their Mojo Dojo Casa houses, it seems like all is back to normal. Somewhat. Some of the weird Barbie architecture has arrived, showing that the Barbies are in power, but maybe they did learn a little something from this whole experience. Upset, Ryan sprints past Margot and the Barbies up to what was his room, and she goes up to talk to him. They have a real genuine heart-to-heart where Margot apologizes to him and says, well, maybe not every night had to be girls' night. She could have spent more time with him. And Ryan tells her that it hurts that she doesn't like him like he likes her. After all, it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken. And Margot says, maybe it can be just Ken. Maybe Ken just needs to figure out who he is without Barbie. And then it can be just Barbie, and it can be just Ken. Much to ponder for the Kens. At some point, the guys from Mattel show back up. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. They have no horse in this race, and they're very inconsequential. Ruth, from earlier, appears again and is confirmed to be the ghost of Ruth Handler, the original creator of Barbie, who has an office on the 17th floor of the Mattel headquarters, and she takes Margot aside to some dreamy dimension, where Margot asks if it's okay if she becomes human. Ruth tells her it's not something that she can decide for her, and if Margot wants to be human, she can simply be so. And with one last beautiful montage of many different women being happy and experiencing life while sad, sappy music plays, Margot forgoes the plastic in exchange for the real world. And thus ends Barbie 2023. What was I made for? I think overall this movie is gonna be a bit polarizing when it comes to people's opinion. It had an absolutely insane amount of hype built up for it for a very, very long time. I don't think it's possible for it to live up to everybody's expectations that they had set in their heads for it. Me included. I am included in this list. I think the people that will like it will love it, and the people that don't like it will hate it. I don't think there will be a lot of people that'll be neutral on this, which is totally fine. A friend of mine said that the message of the film, which is, I think, to be true to yourself outside of others' expectations of yourself, maybe, feels a little diluted because the message is being delivered by Mattel, which, I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that, but I also think if you start viewing everything through a lens like that, you're gonna be unable to enjoy anything. In my opinion, if corporations have decided that media that focuses on women is popular enough to invest in, that's just a pro in my book. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun, funny, colorful treat for the eyes. All the outfits were great, and Ryan's performance alone makes the movie absolutely worthwhile for me. Go watch this movie for yourself if you think you like it. Reach your own conclusions. Go dressed up. Have fun. Dye your hair pink. Have fun with it. I'd rate this movie a 7 out of 10. Phew! Wow, that was a long one. Have you been counting down the days to this movie's release? Would you classify yourself as a Ken or a Barbie? Or maybe an Alan? Are you sick and tired of hearing about it, and are you ready for the ads to die in a fire? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing your thoughts. I also have social media accounts where I talk about things sometimes. You can find my ats here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Simbib, stuff I make because I'm bored. If this video didn't convince you to see Barbie, maybe these 1-star Letterboxd reviews will. Ha! Cry harder.